This is your man, Earl, coming at you again. Another podcast from Underdogz on Top. And what I wanted to discuss with this particular podcast is it's very, it was actually one of the best things that ever happened to me, but it's kind of a interesting story, okay? What would be the odds of you becoming really good friends with your bodybuilding idol? He's the one that, Shawn Ray is the one that got me wanting to be a bodybuilder. And we're talking about, he's from a whole nother state. He actually lives in California. And I'll never forget, turning on the TV, they used to have a program came on called American Muscle Magazine, and it would come on all crazy hours. And this particular time, I woke up at 2:00 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, and it was on. And what they were doing an interview and a segment on Shawn Ray, who had just won the Nationals. He had just turned pro. And why I say it got me into bodybuilding was when I first started following bodybuilding, people were 6'1", 6 feet, 6'2", 250, 260 pounds. So, I had told myself I can't do this sport because I don't have those dimensions. I'm a short guy. I'm 5'7" at my best. So this particular time where they were doing this interview with Shawn Ray, he was he was actually rolling down the street in a drop top Rolls Royce. And if you ever got a video called Lifestyles of the Fit and Famous, you'll see him. He's riding in a drop top Rolls Royce. He's checking on his house he's having built. And like I said, this was 1987, 1988. And he was that I looked at him like, whoa, here's a bodybuilder driving a Rolls Royce, having a mansion built. And he's at the time, 19, 20 years old. And I looked, I did further research on him, and I saw and found out this guy was 5'7", 190 pounds at best. And he was one of the top ranked bodybuilders in the world. And I said, wow, I can do this. So, and during that time, I mean, like literally, he was my idol. That was my reason for getting involved in bodybuilding. So what I did after I learned pretty much more about him, and that your size or your structure or none of that has anything to do with bodybuilding, because he was one of the best guys in the world, making a living, driving a Rolls Royce, doing the business, And so what I did at that time, I actually joined the gym, Quad's Gym, which was our best gym. It was the top 2 or 3 ranked gym in the world by Muscle and Fitness magazine. And it was really the big talk of the town. All the great people, Ed Cohen, who was the world's strongest power lifter, top-notch bodybuilder, football players, basketball players, everybody came to, everybody that's anybody was at Quad's Gym. You go in and, you'll see, like in most gyms, you're lucky if you go in the gym and see, 1 or 2 good bodybuilders. You go in Quad, you're liable to run into 10 or 15. And so my first time joining Quad's Gym, I went downstairs to the locker room, put on some shorts, and went to work out. And I started seeing these guys that was just a whole different, the Smith brothers, they had placed and won national competitions. And, you had a lot of people, Hurt, Anthony Watkins, they call him Hurt. He had just won the Illinois and the Midwest, and he was second or third at the Nationals. And so I walked upstairs, and at the time, Tom was the owner. Dave and Tom owned the gym. So it was a world renowned. Everybody knew what quads was about. So I saw these guys, and I went upstairs where they lived, and I'm like, this is not for me. I'm not ready for this. So I left there, went back to the small gym that I was training at, Bob's Gym, and I said to myself, I'm not ready for that, but I will be. Get ready for that. And I think maybe 2 years later, I went back and joined. And so I did that, and I started gaining notoriety in training and bodybuilding and things like that. And then um, my first show, I used to be a promoter, which at the time there was no other black promoters in sport. So I was a sanctioned promoter, and my very first guest was Shawn Ray. And if you have ever, he's retired now, but if you ever saw Shawn Ray is the real deal. If you want to talk about a god of bodybuilding, talk about Shawn Ray. He's still the man. Okay, so my very first guest poser, I had Shawn Ray. So um, with that, we worked out and we went out to eat. We went to dinner and we did all these things. And somehow me and him clicked and we became really, really good friends. I'd call him. He'd come to Chicago to do something. And of course, I had to pick him up. He had to stay at my house. So we became really, really good friends. It's just a vibe. Um, we had kids, and his daughter was on A&E on a show called Finding Asia. She was on the Dance Champs, which was the heavyset lady, and she did all those things. She did a lot of great things. She was really, really popular, really good dancer, one of the best in the world, and we just vibed. So we became really good friends. So when I would see him, we would always go out for lunch or dinner or something like that. And we just became, to this day, a couple of years ago, GA had a show in Atlanta. I flew to Atlanta. First person I ran into and saw was Shawn Ray. So, man, we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. He's really, really a nice guy. I mean, we've been to competitions where he's got me tickets, the best seats in the house to go to the Miss Olympia, the Superstar show. I mean, he's really been a really, really good, solid friend to me. And so, I always think, like I've always, pretty much the title of the show, how often, what's the likelihood that you would become one of the guy's best friends of a guy that at the time he was probably second in the world. He probably had took second 3, 4 times in the world. And he's 5'7" and he's beating guys 6'1" and talk cash shit. You will never out talk Sean. Sean talk cash shit. So we became really good friends. He'd come to Chicago. He'd be here. Of course, he'd stay at my house. I went to Vegas one time. Funny story. I went to Vegas because one of my friends, Anthony Watkins, who I was training, was getting ready for the USA. And Sean had a partner named Richard Longwith that was doing the USA also, and my guy beat his guy. And that was really, really good. So when he had told me, well, I told him, when you come to Chicago, let me know, and you can just stay with me. You ain't got to stay at a hotel. You can come stay with me, which he did. And then he told me, he said, whenever you're in California or Vegas, because he had a house he had 2 houses in Vegas, and he had 2 houses. No, he had 2 houses in California and 2 in Vegas. And he said, whenever you come, let me know. You can stay at my house. He had a townhouse out there, and you ain't got to worry about the hotels and stuff. So one time, I called. I was on my way out to Vegas because the USA was out there, and I asked him. I said, "How am I gonna know it's you?" Right? And he said, "Trust me, you'll know." So When he went to pick me up from the airport, he come pulling up in a Lamborghini, killing doors up, blasting everything. Man, we went out to lunch. We went to Ponderosa. We went out to dinner. What's the name of it? Some dinner place, with a steakhouse type thing. And so we were hanging out for like probably 3 or 4 straight days. And it was one of the best times of my life. I met him in New York before. He wanted me to help him shoot his video. And here we are in a limousine. Now, if you watch the video, it's There and Now. That's the name of the video. We riding down Park Avenue in a limo, hanging out, just kicking it, and because he invited me. He was like, "Hey, I want you to help me do my booth, so I want you to come to the New York Pro." And man, before I even knew it, I was on a plane. So we've done and bonded in a lot of ways, and I consider it one of my greatest honors to be. I'm not a nut hugger, as he would call. We're mutual friends. If you knew, like I said, I've flown to New York to help him, but he's a really, really good guy. And I always tell him, I said, now everything you do, I do. If you get a website, I get a website. If you have a T-shirt made, I have a T-shirt made. If you, whatever you do, I'm doing. So if somebody says, I think he's copying you, they're not lying. I am. I'm copying you. Everything you do, I do. It works for you, so it's got to work for me. And so we over the years, and like I said, I've just seen him recently. I talk to him all the time. He'll call me on my birthday. He's a really, really good guy. You would never believe that because, like I said, he was one of the best in the world. He's retired since then, but Shawn, when he was competing, he was one of the greatest bodybuilders to ever. He's in the Hall of Fame bodybuilding. To ever touch a weight, he was one of the best guys. He had a perfect physique, talk shit big time, and he was just a really, really good guy. So my thing is, what's the likelihood, of befriending a guy that got you into bodybuilding, motivated you, and made you want to become a bodybuilder? I remember one time going to one of his seminars, and he was saying, what you do, what we do as far as guest posing, promoting shows, selling pictures, all that. He said, whatever we do to make money, you can do the same thing. You don't have to be a pro. And so because of him, I started holding seminars with professionals, which I think I did a seminar in Nasser or somebody, Vince Taylor, Shawn Ray. I've done a lot. I had my own show for 5 years at the college. I have websites, and I have T-shirts that I've made that that has sayings on them, and we sell them a lot. And how I came up with those ideas and that concept is because of Shawn. Shawn said, whatever we do, you can do. You may not make as much, but you may not spend as much either. And he is the reason, 100%, that I do a lot of the things that I do and have done. And they always say that the greatest bodybuilder, the greatest time for bodybuilding was in the 90s. A lot of great bodybuilders came through in the 90s. And he was one of them. And I had my greatest period of time was during the 90s when I just got to travel and bodybuilding and hang out with the best of the best. And then, it was great, to this day, what I was able to do, people I was able to meet, places I was able to go. I remember one time meeting him at one of the hotels, and we sitting down. He told me, he said, come on, sit down, have breakfast with us. Man, it's Joe Weider, Shawn Ray, Arnold Schwarzenegger, everybody there, they hanging out. But I always say, when you hang with Shawn, you are among royalty. Everybody knows Shawn and respects Shawn. So with me walking with him and being around him, I learned what a great bodybuilder and a guy who holds the utmost respect should be. And to this day, like I said, we're still good, very, very good friends. And I've learned so much more from him than anybody. And here's a guy that just took the time to take a guy on this wing and say, hey, look, you could do this, you could do this, you could do that. So, a lot of what I've learned and a lot of what I've done and a lot of places I've been is directly due to Shawn Ray. And like I say, that's one of my best friends that I talk to all the time that shows me the utmost respect, like I show him the utmost respect. I did a podcast one time, he was on as a guest. So that's probably one of definitely my fondest memory. That and joining Quad's Gym was probably some of my best memories. Never forget them. I'll never forget those times. All right. So until next time, this your man, Sir Earl, just reminiscing, going back down memory lane, keeping it real. All right. So I'll catch y'all the podcast next Wednesday. I'll catch you on that. All right. So peace out.